Let's go ahead and have a roll call.
Mary Helen,
Here.
Ian Whitney,
Here.
Lisa Koskowski, here, Jason Smith,
Here.
Cody Hayes.
All right. Let's go ahead and review the meeting agenda for the 8th. Then I'll entertain a motion to approve that agenda.
Yes.
Do I have a second?
Jason Smith, I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Then we'll move on to number 4, which is the approve the minutes from both the January 21st, 2025 regular meeting and the March 27th, 2025 special meeting. Take a moment for everyone to look over those minutes.
Jason Smith, I'll move to approve.
Okay, do I have a second?
Lisa Koskowski, second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. Moving on to number 5, hearing of persons wishing to address the board. Are there any persons wishing to address the board?
Not aware of any.
Okay. So moving on to number 6, written communication. I understand we have a letter from somebody Unified Board of Trustees.
Yes, and it should be in your packet, but I'll read it for the record. This is from, as Ian just mentioned, from the Board of Trustees, has to do with Yosemite no longer electing to have a member on our board. So the purpose of this communication is to provide notice that the Yosemite Unified School District Board of Trustees have decided not to elect a representative to serve on the board of Western Sierra Charter Schools. In the recently approved Glacier High School Charter, it states, and it is a statement that is required that we, in our charter, allow for such a placement of somebody from their board. They then conclude with the district has chosen to not have a YUSD board member serve on our WSCS board of directors. If you have questions, would like to discuss the matter further, please contact me directly. So we had Bernie, great board member and helpful, but the district has decided that it's they don't want to continue to participate with us directly going forward. That's that.
Anybody have any questions about the communication? Seeing none, on to item number 7, which is the report for our tax filing. We have some guests to explain that.
Christina Zakarian from the audit firm Borchardt, Corona, Faith and Zakarian is going to present. So thank you for being with us.
Of course. So I believe everyone has a copy of the tax return in their packet. And so I'll just do give general information about the return, and then we'll go through some return highlights, just very upper level. So first off, this is the consolidated 2023 Form 990 and 199. 990 is the federal tax return and the 199 is the state return. And we're talking now about the 23-24 fiscal year. So the return, we start with preparing it using the audited financial statements that were submitted to the state back in December. And then we send a questionnaire to Jody requesting some administrative details such as donation details, 1099s and W-2s filed, compensation and various school district policies that we have to incorporate in the tax returns. And so the audited financial statements along with that questionnaire are what we then use to complete the tax returns. So if you go to the first page of the Form 990, which is page 1, you'll see that this presents a summary of the revenue and expenses in broad categories. So on line 12, you'll see the total revenue, which agrees to the audit report, as well as the total expenses on line 18, again, which agrees to, these numbers are taken right off of the audit report that was filed. And so you'll see the change, which is the revenues less expenditures of 724,098. So that is also from the audit report. That was a change in net assets. And then on the very line 22, the last figure on this front page is at 6,545,586. Those are the total net assets, which also agrees to the audit report. Now, if I have you turn to page 6, I just want to point out on line 11A and 11B, the board is supposed to review the tax return prior to its submission to the IRS, which is why I'm here presenting it, because each board member is supposed to be provided a copy of the return to review prior to its submission. Now you could turn to page 9. And on page 9, section line items 2A through G, it has more of the detail of the revenue related items that make up the total revenue that was on page 1. And you'll note all of the revenues are related to the tax exempt function of the charter schools. And then on page 10, this shows a detailed breakdown of the expenditures. It's the schedule of functional expenditures. So you'll see a total expense column, program service expenses, management and general expenses, and fundraising expenses. And once again, the total of those expenditures, they match up to the audit report as well. And page 11 is the detailed presentation of the balance sheet as of June 30th, 2024. You'll see the total assets of about $8 million. The total liabilities on line 26, about $1.4 million. And then the total net assets, which again matches up to the first page, about $6.5 million. So that wraps up my highlights for the 990. And then if you then, it's going to be further in the packet, but the form 199, which is a California return. These figures here are once again just summarizing that detail that I went over on the federal report. So this first page, it shows that on line 10, you'll see that change of 724,000 on that front page.
Like this.
And then on the second page of 199, once again, you'll see the detail of the balance sheet there that matches up to the federal balance sheet as well. So that's it in reviewing the return and the highlights on the return. And once again, everything matches up to the audit report that was filed. And once we receive the e-file authorization, there's two of them, one for the federal return, one for the California return. So once we receive those back from Jody, we'll be able to e-file the returns, which are due on May 15th. So, yeah. So if you have any questions, please let me know.
Does anybody have questions about the tax form? Hearing none, we're going to move on to the action basically just to accept the filings, or technically a both tax forms, the state and the federal.
Right, correct.
Okay. So even though it says tax filing form 990, this action item covers all.
Yeah, so calling for the action, it's good to mention that for both the federal form 990 and the California form 199.
Yes.
And then just if you could note that, Holly, in the minutes. Sorry about that.
Is there any further questions or discussion on any of these tax issues? Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to accept the nonprofit corp tax filing, both state and federal, for the 2023-2024 tax year.
This is Jason Smith. I'll move to accept.
Is there a second?
Mary Mellon, I second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you very much. Now we will move on to number 9, and that's the approval of warrants for January 16, 2025 to April 1st, 2025. Mr. Jeffers, do you have anything to highlight for us on the warrants?
I didn't really, there's nothing really that ordinary on it. It's a lot, $567 million. And we always go from the last warrant listing end date. It was about a week ago at this point, because we sent it out a little bit early. But mostly it's just items that you see recurring. If anyone's looking and sees any questions on or has any, I would be happy to answer.
One note, Mary, you are being your reimbursement for the expenses of helping us with academic travel is in here. And so it's a reimbursement, that's all it is for actual work. But you can choose to affirm when we vote or abstain because you're in it.
This is your travel.
Yeah.
Okay. Everyone had a chance to look over the warrants? Unless there's any questions, we'll entertain a motion to approve the warrants.
This is Jason Smith. I'll move to approve.
Do I have a second?
Lisa Paczkowski, I second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the warrants, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, we're going to move on to number 10, and that's the approval of the TK credential alternative authorization policy. This is one that we had a meeting last time, well, last regular meeting. But Mr. Fox, if there's anything else to add?
Sure, just a reminder, the state now requires that schools, teachers that are working with transitional kindergarten, so that's pre-kindergarten students, have a state credential for that work. They also provide that local education agencies can provide alternative route for their qualification for that. So this is a policy that we're asking the board to approve for how Western Sierra Charter Schools would, if a teacher doesn't have a TK credential, how we would qualify them for that.
Anybody have any questions about the proposed requirements? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the policy.
This is Jason Smith. I'll move to approve.
Do I have a second?
Lisa Paczkowski, I second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the policy is approved. The next two policies are going to be very similar, so we'll move on to number 11, which is the homeless youth education policy.
And my name is beside it, but actually I am hunting to Grace. She has much more knowledge on developing these for us. And so Grace, if you just, again, these were all brought before the board in the prior meeting, but if you wanted to just remind the board what the homeless youth education policy
Yeah. So these are, every LEA has a similar policy in place, and this is basically establishing that we have pathways for homeless youth and then separately for foster youth to receive the same quality education as a general ed student would, students of other populations. And so there's, just some extra guarantees that these specific populations are given, especially at the high school level. Things like maintaining school of origin for a set amount of time. Things like for high school, sometimes there's credit waiver involved. So it's just establishing, these are in alignment with general practices that other LEAs are doing. And I think you guys saw the details of them already.
Anybody have any questions about this policy? If none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the policy.
Jason Smith. I'll move to approve.
Is there a second?
So yes, I see.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Hearing no opposition, the motion passes unanimously. And then, I think we've already talked about the foster youth policy in line with the homeless youth education policy, but since they're two different action items, we'll go ahead and vote separately. Do I hear a motion to approve the foster youth policy?
Jason Smith, I'll move to approve.
Do I have a second?
Lisa Petrowski, second.
Any further discussion on this policy? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, this policy is also approved unanimously. Okay, so that moves on to number 13, a resolution for reserve changes for Glacier High School.
So this goes to Jody.
Okay, I'm going to try to share here. Actually, I probably don't need to share, that's pretty straightforward. I'll share on the more complicated one. So if you, let me. Just a little gun shy on the sharing because my computer's acting strangely. Maybe give it a shot. It did work, yeah. Okay. And so basically, it's a resolution that, and let me share another page. Not sizes this one. Well, this resolution, I'm just going to go down to the bullet point. It says, now therefore, it be it resolved, the board has designated the following amount as a reasonable discretionary reserve to be considered to set aside for the following purpose. So the board's discretion here is to put aside reserves for purposes of future spending. And so it takes the reserve we have, and the decision is we're not just hoarding money for no reason, we're doing it for a purpose. And the purpose is whatever it might be. In this case, we already have reserves set aside for many things, and we have reserves actually set aside by Glacier for the purpose of capital improvements. And so what's happening is this year we're doing those capital improvements up at our Oakers campus. And so right now, Glacier High has too much set aside in that reserve because it's already being spent down. So you don't want to have reserve and simultaneously spending the money at the same time. You know, have a bank account set aside and make it out of your own cash. So that's what we don't want to do. Plus, it also sort of affects the over reserve, something that you don't want to have over reserve. So in this case, just saying Glacier High School reduced reserves for facilities acquisition and capital projects by $100,000 due to the bathroom project being budgeted for completion within 24-25 school year, and the Oakhurst main building addition being 100% applicable to Mountain Homeschool. Because we also have reserve set aside for the addition that we're working on in the future for the addition to Mountain Home, the main building up there. That is, actually, you're going to see later on that we're saying we're doing an allocation schedule. That addition is only Mountain Homeschool's addition. It's not going to be Glacier's addition. So we're removing that from reserve as well. Okay, it'll be a Mountain Homeschool only reserve. So the remaining reserve, $180,000, will be set aside for other facility improvements for Glacier only in the future. So it's a reduction in that. See, yeah, and this is what that's explained. Okay, so here's Mountain Home, Glacier, and so MHS, THS, and ECS. That's what the current reserves are. And then we're just changing one from 280 to 180. The others will all stay the same. So that's we have to do, the board has to do a resolution stating that it's official action of the reserve of the board to do this. So that's the request that the board approve that, and it will be effective to approve it.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions about the change in reserve policy? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the resolution to make those changes as Tony described. Do I have a motion?
This is Jason Smith, I'll move to approve.
Do I have a second?
This is Mary Mellon, I second.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the resolution passes. I think, are we gonna send out a sign up or a document to sign?
Yes, I
I'll send
think-
it out after, that's okay, because we have 3 resolutions.
Let's do them all once then.
Yes.
Okay, so then we'll move on to number 14. Action item to approve a change on the Western Sierra Charter Schools allocation policies. It's also Jody.
Jody, yes.
And I'm sharing already, so it worked. The only thing, you've already approved the allocation policy at the beginning of the year for this year. The only thing that's changed is number 8, there on the bottom. And it says costs related to the construction of the main building addition will be charged 100% to Mountain Home School because the use of this new space will be utilized for 100% of Mountain Home School staff and students. And that's what I'm saying, the allocation's changed on that. And so this just puts that into the policy. And so when we start charging out those costs, we will only put them in the Mountain Home School. And so just, if the board approves this allocation policy, it's just not having that change as a whole.
Does anybody have any questions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the change in the allocation policy.
This is Jason Smith. I'll move to approve.
We have a second.
Lisa Betskowski, second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the resolution passes unanimously. And then we've got one more, number 15. The resolution for, actually looks like there's 2 kind of related ones. So we'll discuss them together and then vote on them separately. A resolution for new signers on the Mountain Home Glacier, ASB bank accounts, and then a resolution for new signers on Endeavor ASB bank accounts.
So, in order for us, these are again, not our general fund accounts, which is what you are most used to seeing and dealing with. This is for our associated student body accounts. And, we have a handful of staff that are signers. It's for any check that's written, it requires 2 signers. And, basically we are freshening this up. We have to have board take action for us to change the signature cards. So we have some staff that have retired, for instance, Mindy Klang with Mountain Home Glacier, other staff that are new ones. So we just need to take retired folks or people no longer with us off the signature cards and put the people who actually, that's what this is.
Forward, is there any questions on either of the resolutions? We'll move on to action item 15 then, and this is for the new signers on the Mountain Home and Glacier ASB bank accounts. Do I have a motion?
And I believe actually resolutions need to be roll call.
I'll do that.
Yeah,
Okay, so we need to go back and read the other ones.
we probably should do
Okay.
that.
All right, my apologies for that.
That's my bad. I should have been paying closer attention.
Okay,
Let's finish this. Right.
okay. Let's go ahead and move to action item 15, the resolution for new signers on the Mountain Home and Glacier ASB bank accounts. Do I have a motion to approve the resolution?
This is Jason Smith. Motion to approve.
Okay, do I have a second?
Yes, second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll move on to a roll call vote.
Mary?
Aye.
Ian?
Aye.
Lisa? Aye. Jason?
Aye.
Cody?
Okay, so let's do action item 16 and then we'll move back to the prior resolution. So this is for the new signers on the Endeavor ASB bank account. Do I have a motion to approve that resolution?
This is Jason Smith. I'll move to approve.
Do I have a second?
Lisa Betskowski, second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, let's move to the roll call vote.
Mary?
Aye.
Ian?
Aye.
Lisa?
Aye.
Jason?
Aye.
Cody?
That resolution is also going to pass. So then just for housekeeping purposes, we're going to move back to item 13, since we did not take a roll call vote, we're required to. Let's just go ahead and do a full new motion, here I have a motion to approve the resolution for reserve changes to Glacier High School.
Jason Smith. I'll move to approve.
Is there a second?
Lisa Betskowski, second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, let's do a roll call.
Mary?
Aye.
Ian?
Aye.
Lisa? Aye. Jason?
Aye.
Cody?
That Resolution passes.
Sorry about that, folks.
And item 14 is the last one, and once again, properly, do I have a motion to approve the changes to the Western Sierra Charter Schools allocation policy?
Didn't we do action on that already?
We didn't do roll call.
It's not a resolution.
It was not? Okay, then I guess
We're okay with that.
all right, if that's not a resolution. Okay, right. Then we'll move on to number 17. I think that's all the action items, so should be good from here on. Which is information item K2 reading screen.
And this is going to go to John Sloas. John is part of a staff task force working on choosing a reading screener. It's a new requirement, and so he is going to take it away from here to explain what his team has been doing on working on choosing the reading screener. So thank you, John.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yes,
Okay, and you can see my screen?
yes.
Okay, great. So here's the task force. So we had 3 from Mountain Homeschool and then 3 from Endeavor. We had a Zoom meeting a couple weeks ago. So we were, oops. Okay. So we were tasked with looking into 4 approved screeners, make a recommendation to which screener instrument we would choose, and then also recommend guidance for implementing the reading screener. And so all teachers will need to begin screening K1 and 2 for reading difficulties next year. So these were the 4 screeners we were given this chart, the way the pros and cons, and then it came down to basically 2, and here they are. And some of the main reasons were it's one-on-one, so the other 2 are whole group, whole class, which just wouldn't work for a setting. They also had to be have an English learner element, which they all do, and then how does this fit with how we already do screening? And so we have to do this screening, once a year. And so we already do screening with the NWEA. And I think, we have an early literacy screener for, we use for kindergarten here at Mountain Homeschool. I think Endeavor might do it a little bit differently. And then in first grade, we start with the main NWEA. It's a 40 to 45 question multiple choice. So so the one, and then so we're also just looking at how easy the professional development would be. And so the one we decided to go with was the top one. And some of the reasons we chose this one, this is Multitudes from UCSF. It satisfies everything we need in terms of it has English learner element, and it's the professional development is cheaper, and that the other one was quite expensive, and and then also just learning it was going to be like, of the 6 of us who were in this meeting, honestly, we were just looking something to check this box that this is the new law, and even though we would like and we were already doing screening with the NWA. So anyway, this one, the professional development, it either is $400 for virtual or $1,500 for an in-person half day for all staff. So and then there's 4 hours of professional development. So I think we just felt with all that's going on, we went with the one that and this one is just a screener. The other ones do, they are, oops. So they do progress monitoring. And so we really didn't want to go that route because we're already doing that with the NWEA. So this will just look for reading difficulties and we'll just have to do it one time a year. So the one we chose was multitudes. And then, okay, so yeah, so this is the screener we chose. And then just in terms of implementing it, somebody's going to need to be in charge of it. So we recommended getting an advising adjunct teacher to be responsible for the implementation of the screening program. So they would be like the reading screener lead. And we suggest, and this is recommendation. So we recommended like a stipend position, and preferably Mountain Home has their own lead, and then Endeavor has their own lead. And then so they're going to have have to understand the ed code section 53008, its requirements and compliance expectations. Some other things in terms of our guidance is they're going to need to have a comprehensive knowledge of multitudes. And that will take some time, and is something that they will probably have to do, because it'll need to get up and running by next year. And so they're going to be also responsible for, multitudes will come in and do the training, and then that person will just be the point person for that, all that professional development. So, and then, yeah, some other questions we had, how is this going to affect the NWEA screening and testing for K2? Because now we have this new thing that we have to do once a year. And then, students with reading difficulties are already on our radar, and it's often very challenging. I mean, kindergarten, yeah, there's a wide variety of where they're at in terms of kindergarten. I mean, if they can recognize their letters, you're like, yay. And then if students can, by the beginning of first grade, if they already know all their letter sounds, you are doing really well. So it's a bit of a challenge to have to screen kinders for this, because they are just at the beginning. It's hard to see if they have reading difficulties when they're just at the very beginning. And then, so if we do have the stipends position, then would they need to start working on it during the summer, and would they get paid for that? And would there be buyback? Those kind of details of whoever that person would be. So so that's our recommendation. Are there any questions?
They don't appear to be. Thank you for that information.
This is an example of something that in our model and what we already do with our schools, we're already doing. We're already very closely aware, both anecdotally and with screening data on where our students are, and working with our parents in that. So we're, in large measure, it's again one of those things that we already are doing. But the state has a new law that they want to make sure that there are no emergent young readers that are falling through the cracks, and so they mandate that every kindergartner, first grader, second grader gets screened every year. And then the state chose those 4 different options that John was showing you. So what we used, the NWEA, wasn't on their list, and so we had to go with one of theirs. So I appreciate, John, you and the others working on that.
Yes, thank you very much. All right. Nothing else on that. We will move on to number 18, the WSCS self-study update.
Nancy, thank you, Nancy.
Okay, so we had our WSCS visit on March 24th through 26th, and for those that are new to WSCS, WSCS stands for Western Association of Schools and Colleges, and they're actually one of 6 regional accrediting agencies in the United States. So their job is to evaluate and accredit schools. It is important for us because accreditation provides assurance to the community that the school is focused on student learning, well-being, and continuous growth. And for this visit, we had all 3 of our schools involved: Glacier High School, Endeavor Charter School, and Mountain Home School. There were actually 2 objectives for this visit. One is to continue our accreditation. All 3 of those schools have WSCS accreditation, Mountain Home School being one of the newest one and having initial accreditation. And the second objective was to
become a system under WSCS. And I'm actually going to explain what that means, because I know it's a little bit new. So a WSCS system is when schools, groups of schools, are intentionally organized and operate under one shared framework, have a common mission and vision, have unified governance and leadership, are aligned in policies and procedures, and have centralized data systems and improvement planning. All of those things are applicable to our 3 schools to be deemed a system. And a system is beneficial in that we can continue to have one visit and one self-study report versus multiple visits and multiple reports. So we very much operate as a system under WSCS criteria. And we had a visiting team of 3 members. We have Malia Pulido Tajal. She was a chair. She's actually a WSCS director. And because this visit was a combined visit moving towards a system, she was involved in this visit. And we had 2 other educators, Margaret Timmers, and she is an English ELD teacher from Crossroads Charter Academy in Hanford, and Jeffrey, who is a math teacher from E Academy Charter School in Turner. Those are the 3. I didn't have a picture of them. And so throughout their visit, the 3 days that they were with us, or 2.5 days, these are the things that we're involved in. So they met with focus groups. So this is a mixed group of staff from all 3 schools, which if you recall has to do with chapter 3, like governance, instruction, teaching, those kind of areas. So they got to meet with our staff, and they were also able to meet with our parents from both Oakers and Fresno. They had a meeting with some of you guys here, board members, and our Fresno Unified representative joined that meeting as well. They were able to see live classrooms in action. So we had classrooms on both sides, Oakers and Fresno High School and Elementary, on various days, where they could join virtually and see instruction happening live. And then because this was a virtual visit, we also did a ton of planning and were able to record classes, including PLP meetings, so they can see what happens during our meeting with the teacher, the student, the parent, the guardian. So we were able to showcase that part of our program. And probably the most exciting part for them is they got to meet our students and our high school and middle school students. We had good participation, and our students were excited to help us with this part. At the end of the visit, they usually have a list of program strengths and areas of growth. So I'll go over the program strengths first. I put a little quote there because it seems that most of our visiting groups that come and see us say that our students look so happy. And they were able to see that too. This is something that they told us virtually. They could see our students were so happy to learn and to be with us. So first I'll share comments that the visiting team some of the comments of the visiting team jotted down while they were meeting with our families. They heard that the families appreciate our program is flexible. They love our science classes. They love our on-site high school classes, our curriculum fair. They feel encouraged. Across the board, we always hear they love our advising teachers. And they see that the changes benefit the students. And so one of the things was like sports, and so that's what families were saying to them. And students, what they heard was the staff is really friendly. Their atmosphere is like a family. They're happy. Teachers work with you. Flexibility, very inclusive. They love the dual enrollment. They love the CTE courses. They see they're getting prepared for colleges and careers. They love the sports. The leadership class got a shout out, and they feel like their schedules are balanced. And they actually gave us a list of strengths, and I'll highlight a few of them. So they see that our leadership for Western Sierra Charter Schools aligns all their decisions with the core values. They see administration is solution focused and data driven, and that it successfully aligns with our LCAP, our growth areas aligned with the LCAP goals. The program offers exceptional curriculum and flexibility and personalization. The schools have developed comprehensive academic programs. The curriculum includes diverse enrichment opportunities praised by families and students. Additional strengths, teachers provide differentiated instruction, meeting students at their learning level and supportive environment where there is genuine joy for learning. So we see that again come up in the strengths. The entire teaching staff demonstrates exceptional dedication and reflectiveness. They see that we have a growth mindset, robust responsiveness to individual student interests and needs. They saw we're committed to data-driven improvement, exceptional sense of community, inclusive and supportive environment. Students reported that atmosphere is like a family. And number 10, which we're very proud of, they saw a relational approach characterizes all interactions with students that they feel seen and heard. In the program growth areas, these are some of the comments that they heard from families, the board members that they met with, and students. For families, one thing they would like music in all grades, on-site science lab offerings at the middle school level, something that came up. Board members see that there's a need for growth. They would like to see more students and families being able to be part of our programs. And they're looking for opportunities to learn more to better support their schools. So board training, maybe additional board training. Students saw a need for more sports, more outdoor activities, space. They had an interest in a medical pathway in the future. They would love to have a set lunch period so they can socialize and interact. Of course, more field trips, and an interesting comment is that they would love to see alumni come back and have some type of event to connect with those that have graduated from our programs. In the areas of growth, they concur that our identified growth areas, which I'll mention in the next slide, all align with our 3 LCAP goals. So those goals are the ones that you've read before in the LCAP. They just concurred that that's exactly what they align with. And specifically, the 3 WSCS goals are listed here. Western Sierra Club School will enhance its professional development opportunities by first identifying organizational areas of need and then providing targeted training, best practices, and flex-based instructional model. The efficacy of these trainings will be evaluated through both qualitative and quantitative measures to ensure continuous improvement. This was an identified growth area that we revised in collaboration with the visiting committee. The second goal was to create and implement a 7th through 12th grade articulated plan for college and career guidance. And our third goal, develop and implement consistent junior high grading practices aligned with high school expectations. So they, go ahead. No.
Well, just pointing out that like goal 2 and 3, we already have an articulated plan for college and career guidance for 9 through 12. So what's new here is bringing this, pushing this into our middle school pages and bringing them into the continuum for college and career readiness, bringing in the same with the third goal as well.
And if you recall, these came out of the self-study and listing all of the things we could obviously improve, but prioritizing them based on the criteria of effort and actually student improvement. And so these were the 3 that we saw were things that we could work on and that would have great impact on student achievement. And they also saw the same with their visit, after their visit. And so they also gave us a visiting report summary. And this is actually just a table, and I'm going to, so these are all the categories that they rate. At the top, it's a little bit hard to see in this slide, but the ratings are highly effective, somewhat effective, and ineffective. And as you can see, based on all the criteria that they had to follow, we scored very well. I don't know their recommendation, but this is where we're at with the rating. And I'm just going to quickly address the 5 areas that are rated effective and not highly effective. The first area has to do with governance that supports high achievement for all students. And so they saw that our governing board goals are focused and aligned. However, it was from their perspective, after speaking with board members, it was clear in the conversation that newer board members were deeply interested in becoming more knowledgeable about and experienced in their role. So that was the effective rating for that. The second one has to do with leadership for learning that supports high achievement for all students. And so the school-wide action plan does align with the LCAP and is directly correlated. But this particular rating has to do with their lens of viewing us as a system. So Western Sierra Charter Schools are in the beginning stages of looking at data system-wide. So that's why we got the effective ranking, because we're still working towards that systematic view of our data. The third effective is actually aligned with one of our goals that I mentioned previously. Qualified staff and professional development that supports high achievement for all students. And again, this is a systematic approach to address the effectiveness of professional development resources. So ultimately, to be able to have something system-wide in this area. And the fourth effective also aligns with one of our goals, rigorous and relevant standards-based curriculum that supports high achievement for all students. The visiting committee rated as effective. They see our instruction is solid, but we had identified that particular focus to articulate clear standard mastery requirements for that junior high students to have a better and smoother transition into ninth grade into high school. So and then the last one is student-centered instruction through a variety of strategies, resources that support high achievement for all students. This is also aligned with one of our goals. And teachers, they acknowledge teachers use a variety of tools, technology, engaging learning experiences. This rating had to do more with moving forward. The school has identified the need to create and implement the 7th through 12th grade articulated plan for college and career guidance. But all the other areas, we scored highly effective.
So if I may, Nancy, just to point out, just to make it maybe more clear than it's necessary, you could. There's two general themes that you will see there she was talking about effective. One was this, that we're moving from, with WSCS, from self-studies for individual schools to being treated as a system. So those effectives, some of those reflect, okay, well, you clearly are doing this well as an individual school. We're wanting, to see how this works as you're treating it as a whole, all three schools as a system. And then the other area, the other theme that they're pointing out is that by our own identification, we are wanting to bring the preparation and rigor that is in high school into a preparatory way more thoughtfully, mindfully into our middle school. And so that was our own identified goal. And so those are the two things that I think stand out.
Yeah, there wasn't anything here that didn't correlate to what we identified as well in our self-study. And so the next steps, the WSCS visiting team has submitted their recommendation, which we don't get to know that yet. They're having an April board meeting, and then I've been told that early May, we're going to get to know our accreditation status. Will be sent an official letter and letting us know if it's 3 years, 6 years, 6 years, mid-cycle visit. So there's different types of accreditations. And so we will get to know that soon. And I just want to end with saying thank you to the people who helped us prepare for this visit. And because it was virtual and we wanted to make sure we had everything ready for the team, we have videographers that are really teachers and staff. But thank you to Nicholas Tettleton and Ryan Docker, because without their expertise knowledge of recording, we wouldn't have been able to be so well prepared. And then our leadership team, Mike, Eric, and Grace, thank you so much for all the meetings that we've had to have and being able to plan this out. Our IT department worked really hard too, especially when it came to live streaming class, to be able to have a good experience for the WSCS team, to be able to see our on-site classes and support our staff. And then staff and teachers attending the multiple meetings, participating in class recordings, editing our self-study report, and of course to the parents, the guardians, especially the students, because the most important feedback and most important input that the visiting team had is theirs. And so we thank all of the participation that we saw. This slide has a link. If you are interested in viewing the, I think it's about 30-minute summary that they provided at the end of their visit, this slide you just, I think it'll be posted online. The slide, you can click on there and watch that. Yes.
And most of all, I mean, Nancy she's the one who carries the ball on this all the way. She's not only coach, she's quarterback and receiver. And so this was a virtual visit, so this is a virtual bouquet of flowers that Nancy so richly deserves. Yeah, this the amount of work you can get a sense of. It's doing WASC is really a multi-year project that just continues to mount and mount and mount. And she does it so very well and makes us look good. So Nancy, thank you for your great work on that.
Thank you.
Now we're going to move on to item number 19, which are the reports. Start off with the executive director's report.
All right, so yeah, some news to report is exciting. We finally are having bathrooms built up the hill, and so that's great. That's, as I think Jody already alluded to, we see that being done within the next couple months. So that's very, very exciting. Additionally, as you've seen and heard, we have for a future project, in addition to the main building, that will add roughly 2,000 square feet, handful of offices, a classroom space, and a conference room that is, as much as our Endeavor staff and students and families feel the pinch here, it's up there too. And so that's, we have architects working on the drawings of that, and when we are done with the agreed upon the drawings, we'll be submitting those to the county and waiting on their approval and working with them on that, but hopefully being able to begin construction on that in the coming year. So that's what we need. Here at Endeavor, we have been, as we've been casting about looking for a potential new or additional space, what we've at this point seem to be getting traction on is with the Westminster Church here nearby. And we submitted to the Westminster folks a letter of intent, which basically is a soft proposal that lines out what we're talking about, what we're seeking from them and how we would like to use the property, and what, a range of what we think would be, we're ready to pay for that. And I received word back that their elder board met and it was a unanimous approval for that letter of intent. So we will continue working forward with them. I would just say, on one hand, there's a disadvantage because there's not enough room there to have our whole program there. And so we're going to have the program be in two places. So that is a disadvantage. But what we are hopeful for is that we can configure it in something like the elementary program is housed there and the high school program housed here. So that, at least on the face of it, seems to make sense, and can conceive how that would organizationally work. And really, the real upside, one of the things that's most exciting about, I think, adding that property, to the exclusion of every other building that we've looked at that we can afford, which have all been, professional office space. The thing that's so neat about Westminster is that it's in a neighborhood, and they have 6+ acres, and they have a little playground, and they have grass and green space, which is none of that in any other place that we've even hopefully looked towards. So, it's really has positives, I think. So we're working towards that, and we are going to now be entering in, really trying to dig down what's the status of zoning and occupancy. And we've discovered that there's at least one, and I think 2 active conditional use permits for that building and how they're using it from past years. And so the question is, can we come in and do what we're doing underneath those current CUPs, or do we need to file another one? And it's just going to be working back and forth with the county on what we need to do, as well as working in our own Endeavor charter. We're going to have to modify our Endeavor charter because we're adding a new location, and working with Fresno Unified on that. But that's the status of that. So to not raise anticipation and happy feelings too much, this is as far as we've been able to get with potential additional sites. So that's good news. Any questions on building stuff?
I did want to ask Mike that it's really close by and it's a beautiful place.
That's exactly. It is. It's really. It is it seems like such a nice, established, quiet, neighborhood. And, you know, the church has been operating there forever. And yeah, it's really pretty neat. And then it is so close by.
I was gonna ask where it was at, 'cause it seems like.
It's like,
Less than a mile from here.
yeah, right,
Just down.
Not a huge separation for kids for campus.
right. Or for parents, if they have somebody there and here, they're not far. It's just a couple minutes in the car.
Easy enough to draw kids.
Right, yeah. So that's pretty cool.
Is there a projected,
I'm sorry?
is there a projected start date for the construction and?
Well, projected, if we think that we have I'm just estimating 6 months to get through the county. So whatever that is from now before we're able to start.
Awesome.
Yeah, yeah. That'll be really needed. It's almost as much needed as extra space here, that's needed up there for sure. You have in your packet, the calendar for next year. So you all can begin to make your holiday and vacation plans now. You can, so I don't know if you see the calendar, if you ever have any questions, please let me know. And you all are being invited to an event in Oakhurst that we're doing for the first time, titled the Community Leaders Meet and Greet, that will be an hour and 15 minutes in Oakhurst. And the genesis of the purpose of this meeting is that we want community leaders in our area in Oakhurst to know who we are and to know that we're there and to have some sense of what we're about. So we're hosting an evening with some, yummy snacks and LaCroix or something like that, where people can come and meet, and then we'll have a short presentation about what our program is, how it works. We're inviting all kinds of local leaders of service clubs, board of supervisors, school board folks and superintendents from principals from around, various businesses that are in the area, and of course, our board. And so here, if you've not picked up, you'll have your invitation here, and we've mailed out invitations and are beginning to get RSVPs already. And so we're excited. We definitely feel the need of, sort of best kept secret kind of thing. We want folks to know who we are and what we're doing. And so please, if you're able to make it, it will be on May 8th in the afternoon. We'd love to have you there. And I could then be there and we're talking. And yes, we have our leaders here too to introduce you to folks. And so any comments on thoughts on that? Please feel invited. Please come. And we also have today, Holly has with her, we need to do our annual conflict of interest, or actually it's the no conflict of interest form 700. We have those for you, and so maybe after we're done with the meeting, Holly can get them to you. We'll just need you to, determine your status. I think for most of you there is no conflict. There's a box to check and a sign on that. So that's it for me.
All right, thank you, Mr. Fox. And then we'll move on to the CBO report, Mr. Jeffers.
Okay. So you'll probably noticed that there's a different written format in this report this time. And I would like to know if you like it or not at the end of this presentation, because we can go back to the other one. Let me share. So there are 3 of them. They look like this. And so what I wanted to do, and Mike and I talked about this, I mentioned before, that we have this format that we've been using for years, and it was a format that pre-existed to me when I started. And I've never really liked it that much because while it's good and it's informative. It doesn't really correlate to what we give to the state. And what I also report for interim reports and final reports. So what this guy is a document that I already send to the state. That's just synopsis. It's a little bit smaller than the one you sent to the squad. It's in the same format as what I sent to the state. I'm going to stand up and point to a few things if I want. This is everyone's here. No one's at the remote location. So usually the one I send to the state has 3 years on it, has the current year and 2 future years. This one, what I'm using it for here is because I'm trying to tell you what the budget looks like for next year, as well as show you where we're at for this year. So I thought the best way to do it, just use the same report that we have been using, and then when we see the interim reports, it'll make more sense that, you know, you get these big things, you're like, I don't want to have apples and oranges, I want to have the same report. So what this does is it puts it into the object codes that the state wants to see. So this is the object code here. And then here's 24-25 projected actuals because we're not done yet. So this is the end of the year for this year. And then this is next year. And so what I use this for is I can just go into these cells, it's an Excel spreadsheet, and I can just change that number by putting in a formula here that says add 3%, you know, make this 3% and that 2.5%, so forth. And so it's pretty much, it's my working thing, and it's also the same one you guys can use that want to simplify it. So you guys can see exactly what I'm talking about. So also at the bottom, I can do this right here, can't I? Can I do something like this? Right there. How do we?
Yeah, I think I'll do it.
Okay, I do it on there?
Unless it's hardwired.
All right, you're trying to be able to sophisticated. Thank you.
All the way to the bottom.
Yeah, all the way to the bottom. Yeah, all the way to where you see that bottom box. Thanks, Mike.
Trying.
Oh, look this, because it did this. It stuck. Yeah, there. All right. Yeah. Escape. There you go. I'll put it this way, and I can look at it and then change it to. Okay, so this box here at the bottom and this here shows a lot of good information that wasn't on the other report. So this is the enrollment by grade span, and this is our ADA projection. And then it shows the total enrollment and the unduplicated count, which we can talk about at another time, but then it has all this information here that shows the amount of growth and different changes I'm making. This was the year before, this is last year's, this year's versus last year. So this looks, we did grow that much and all those things for this year. This one is next year's. So it shows you what the COLA is intended to be for the state and the absence rate we show, which is the difference between our enrollment and the average daily attendance that we get money from. And then it shows what the growth rate we expect for different types of expenses. So that gives lots of information. You go, oh, what do we expect these different things to grow by? And then, so I think it's helpful in that respect. So you can sort of tell by here to here, we're expecting the same thing next year as this year, except I'm changing these numbers. Now, you guys know that the stock market's crashed for like 3 days in a row. So a lot of these things are going to be different. And so we don't know. These COLAs I expect to change from the state if a recession happens. Now we're getting a 45% chance of a recession or a 60% chance. Some people say we're already in one. So I'm not sure. But if that happens, and if federal funding doesn't go to the states as it has been, even though we don't get a lot of federal funding, it may mess up the state's budget enough that they'll come down and mess with our budget. So to say it's uncertain is an understatement right now. So it looked pretty good. We had COLAs, positive COLAs, like 2 to 3% for the next 3 to 4 years initially as of January. Now I'm not sure what they're going to be. They may be 0, they may be negative. I'm not really sure. So if that's the case, it's going to be a difficult year to budget. Yeah. So let me go down and I'll just show you the end result, basically. The other sort of cool thing about this, it shows you the reserves, all the reserve balances and stuff. It's also broken into, this is unrestricted and restricted money. So the money that's here is money that they give us with strings attached. You can only spend this on that project, that type of books or whatever it might be. And then the stuff that's over here, the money that's over here is money that you can spend on anything, because anything instructor related, basically, okay? And so Mountain Home, these are the reserves we talked about, so they're restated. And then this is the amount that's unreserved, and this is the total amount of our fund balance projected at the end of the year. And so during that same period, we're showing that we're going to spend, and I'm going to have to adjust this next year once we start spending money on our project, because you can see that's a negative number. You can't have a negative number. So that $1,345,000 will change into zero probably, because we'll spend it all next year. Keep doing that. And then this number will become positive 700,000, okay? But right now I'm just showing it as it is. So this is the new format. Each of the schools has this. This is the one that has the most. Well, it's pretty much, this is a good format to use. This one has the most expenditures related to construction projects. So, okay. So further up the sheet a little bit, this is the amount that we expect to spend this year on projects and expenditures for our building project up in Oakhurst for Mountain Home part of it. And then next year, here's the cost related to that building addition, which is also partially in here because I think we're going to have some costs that'll hit us next year from architect. We've already had some costs. So you can see that's quite a bit of money. And these costs keep going up too. So I can't imagine they're not going to continue to go up because everything's going to be a lot more expensive by the time we get to the point where we're buying it. I mean, we're spending the money. So that's Mountain Home. It's, we'll go back down, I'll go back over here. There's one place you can see our net income. In other words, the expenditures, revenues less expenditures. This year we're having negative 250,000 because we're spending money on all those things, 355,000 and so forth. So we would have made money. We had a positive net income had it been, we hadn't had those costs related to the construction, and next year it'd be negative 887 because we're spending $1,137,000
From our reserves, right?
Our reserves,
Right.
not ongoing money. Ongoing money comes in, but we have money in the bank. And so this is a cash basis expenditure. If this was not on cash basis, it would be showing a positive number here because expenditures on things you have reserves for don't show up in this figure. They do on cash, but they don't show up on the other. So it means that in this case, this is what the state sees. So they always say, hey, what's going on? What's going on? Well, we send it for some reserves. That's why you have that other section that shows the reserves changing. And that's why we're always doing our maneuvers on the reserves, so we can make sure that they're happy that we know what we're doing here. So I know that's a lot of numbers. And right now, normally what I do in a given year, in a given month, like say, December or something, is I would show just this one and say, okay, here we are, because I wouldn't have been starting to develop the budget for next year. At this point, it's showing two, just so you can look at it and see what's going on if you want to, if you want to see all the details. There's a lot on that report again. So, I don't know, if you want me to go through each of the other two, I can, but it's more or less an idea is just like, this is what you're seeing. I can tell you just in a nutshell that Endeavor doesn't have construction projects right now, so it's just on its normal ongoing expenses and income, and it has a good business model, everything's working. All three schools have a great business model. When we come to getting the new spot over there at Westminster, we've already arranged to, it's not showing yet because I'm not sure enough about it actually happening, but we're already going to be able to spend the money on the cost of the rental by adding teachers and students that we can do at that time. So that will be a self-paying issue, so that's nice. And which is another nice thing about that location is it's not like outrageously expensive. We're not having to put a whole bunch of money down or buy, do just crazy stuff. It's a very easy modular sort of fit. And then over the years, perhaps they'll like us so much they'll let us move everything over there. Who knows? But it would be, they're really nice people. It's a very easy thing. It's a wonderful location. But on endeavors, you'll see that as it goes, it'll increment up and it'll still have a net income expense over, revenue over expenses will be positive. Or yes, actually better than ever, if that makes sense. So, that's it. I mean, I go through each one, but I just thought you already have it. It's this side of each one of these is going to change radically in the next few months. I'm expecting quite a bit. So I don't know what it's going to be, but remember we have big reserves. That's why we have them to try to survive this. The other thing I do want to bring up is there is a bill that came out in the legislature that you may want to pay attention to. We're all paying attention to it and sending out information on it. We hate the bill. It's called 8084, and it has a lot of negative stuff and non-classroom based schools in it, and every charter school. It's attacking every charter school in the state. This happens every other year. Every year.
Some hostile.
Yeah, really hostile bill. It's draconian. It would slash our funding by 30%, which would kill mostly everybody. That's the point, right? You're getting 30% less this year, and you just like it or not, you know. But we think the idea is all the schools are going up against it, and we have a really good track record of killing these things. But we do have to be cognizant of them. So again, that's another reason. Obviously, if that happened, we would be retooling, figuring lots of stuff out, and using our reserves to get through to a new business model that would help us to survive that. And if we don't expect it to get all the way through, you know, these bills, they give you a million bad things and then a lot of negotiating starts. So we'll see. But that's something to pay attention to. So again, like the uncertainty coming from the right, you got the uncertainty coming from the left. So it's just all piling in the middle. We'll see which one happens, or if none of them happen. It would be, we'll see. But I do believe that, you know, our job is always just to survive and keep giving our students what they deserve, which is our taxpayer money is for their education. Isn't that a great idea? So no matter if they say we're not going to get the full amount or whatever, remember, non-class-based charter schools already get about 80% of the money other schools get anyway. And so then when they argue with us, oh, you don't need all that money. It's like, well, you already gave us less. You gave us 80 cents on the dollar. Now you're going to say, oh, we got to cut that again. It's like, they just don't like us. That's just a fact. And so that's the people who are entrenched in power with the status quo. But we will survive. Gloria Gaynor?
Yeah, I think that much.
All right, so that's it. That's my spiel. And do you have any questions? Should I continue with this format? Is that okay? It does help me too, because I'm converted to another format. Okay, any questions?
Okay, thank you, Gary. All right. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the Oakhurst Staff Liaison Report. Mr. Sloas, are you with us?
Hello. Oh, there I am. Okay. I'm going to share my screen with you. Okay, so you can hear me and see my presentation?
That is true.
Okay, great. So gonna run through some events that from the last several months. So in March, we had the Peach Blossom Festival, and every team of students all achieved the highest score of superior. I got to go and watch it this year. It was a pleasure. So I, highly recommend students doing this. Then also for Mountain Home.
Before you move on from Peach Blossom, could you explain what Peach Blossom is for some who may not know?
Yes, so this has been going on at Fresno State, since for 50 years. And so it's all literature based. So it could be a book, it could be a poem, I've seen a student do a piece from a Seinfeld stand-up. So and so they prepare and then and it could be a class presentation, individual or small groups. And so so they're judges and you may be in the theater or you may be in the classroom. And so you present and then also the audience, you're learning how to be a good audience and then the judges will give feedback. And so there are different levels. I mean, superior is the highest. And so and then the judges we had were super encouraging. And I mean, honestly, all of our kids did really well. So they really knocked it out of the park. So when you go, there's a lot of students on campus. So it's over 2 days, March 6th and 7th, I believe. And so yeah, so you see tons of schools there invading the campus at Fresno State and then performing. And they've been practicing for weeks and months. So that's kind of peach blossom. Okay, and then academic pentathlon. Our 7th and 8th graders went and they won the super quiz event. So they were first place in that event. And that was versus other Madera schools down in Madera. And then cross country. So Mountain Homeschool has cross country. We had 50 plus runners participate, and we had 3 races at 3 different schools. And you can see over to the far right, we had a first place finish for the Kinders. And I forget her first name, but her last name's Tenor. And so she's quite a runner, a running family. And so we raced at Wasuma Elementary. Core School had an event at the rodeo grounds, and then Minarets at Minarets High School. So yeah, it's been fun. From K to 8th grade does the cross country with 3 races. And Mr. DeCarly is the main coach for that, and he does a great job. Okay, so with the Glacier, of course, they won the county in Madera County for the academic decathlon. And so I know they just a few weeks ago went to state, and I know they won some. Mary, did a Mellon win something at that?
Yep, he won speech.
Wow, that's great. At state level,
Yeah,
that's gigantic.
yeah.
I don't know much about it. Did anybody else win anything at the state competition?
No.
Okay, so he won a medal for speech.
Yes.
Okay, so well, congratulations. So
Absolutely. Obviously, it's one thing, it's great to compete and win in the county, but you were definitely jumping in the deep end once you're at state level. So of all of the winning teams from their counties. So that's, yeah, really cool for our kids and especially for your son. Yeah.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Awesome. Okay, and then of course, Glacier had their leadership night, and so students did various student projects, and then they presented their projects that night. And the county supervisor, Bobby McCauley, was one of the judges or panelists. And so, for instance, one of the things was Alistair King did something for all the teachers. So we all he did a little plaque for us and with whatever we teach. And so he did a little graphic and he framed it with our name. And so I teach Lego robotics 4th and 5th grade. And so we all have these hanging in our office now. So when we got it, we were like, oh, wow. And Mr. Cox got something, Mr. Hagan. And so it was really kind of a cool, that he included every single staff and teacher here at Mount Homeschool. So, so then, I don't think we've seen you since the Winter Showcase, but so I just wanted to show you some pictures from the Winter Showcase. We had about 25 acts at the YHS Theater, singing, dancing, some acting. we had the teachers there in the lower right-hand corner, all dressed up. As I mean, some of us are getting close to the elderly phase, but we did a dance, and so yeah, it was great. It was a fun night. So some other things that we've been doing, there's just too much to mention, but so Mr. DeCarly brought with him last year a jump rope tournament. And so during enrichment classes, so he brings out all these jump ropes, and so the tournament is how many skips can you do in 1 minute? And then so there is a first place for all grade levels. And so Riley Kreider was the overall winner. She could do 154 skips in 60 seconds, which is pretty amazing. And then so it really created like a fun school culture event that everyone was doing this. And then if you won, you got a little medal. And for really very, and you can see there's Mr. DeCarly with some students. He was giving them the medal. And then on the back, it said Mountain Homeschool Jump Rope Speed Champion. And there was even a senior division for staff. This is my personal medal.
Hey, Mr. Sleuth, who was the staff member that won?
So it was me. I won. But there was only 2 people competing. So me and Mr. Hagan, but I did 131 skips in 60 seconds. So, but I'm like to get more people doing this. But anyway, Mr. DeCarly is fantastic, and just these little simple things that create school culture that don't take a lot of money, and but it's fun. And then kids just seeing their progress. They get introduced to jump rope, they go and buy one, and then they're just they learning this new skill to be fit and be outside. So that was a lot of fun. Spelling Bee was last week, and April Hill does a great job organizing that, and they just do like cookies, and every kid gets a book if they participate, and again they get medals as well. So and then they're going to be going to regionals, the winners of that. So some upcoming events, we have kayaking with Glacier this week with Mrs. Kelly. After spring break, we start our testing. So our testing for Mountain Homeschool is on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And enrichment classes, this is the last week of enrichment classes for us. And then we start testing. Math classes continue until the end of May. So if they're on an on-site math class, those students will continue. We had last week the ROV local competition. So we saw some Endeavor students and Mountain Home and Glacier students competing at the YHS pool. And then on the 26th, they go to the regional competition. We have some, field trip to Calvin Crest for Mountain Homeschool, a train trip on Amtrak to the Capitol for 4th and 5th graders in June. And then, of course, at the end of the year is on June 5th is our promotion, and then Glacier their graduation. So, okay, so thank you for listening. And that's my presentation.
Thank you very much.
And he was filling in for Mr. Hagan, who's not able to be with us today,
Okay.
so.
Tell us about this twofer.
Yeah, 2 for.
All right. Then we'll go ahead and move on to the business staff liaison report. Sweet.
Do you want me to share?
Yeah. All right. So as you just heard, we had the ROV competition up in Ochre. So here's just a couple of pictures from, poolside. Right there in the middle is our, we had one scout team from Endeavor. And we're just really proud of the kids. It was really fun to be there. And usually I'm kind of sequestered in a classroom judging the presentations, but this year they needed more help on the pool deck. So it was fun to actually see it all in action out there, and the kids working, they work really well together and have, it's a great time for them to work out the kinks before the big competition. We also had a prom. So these are a couple of pictures from our photographer. Actually, I was just here doing some other makeup pictures for Endeavor. So yeah, it's really fun time. A couple other pictures. Some of our staff that were there. We did showing of chaperones and yeah, I think the kids really enjoyed the event. The space, the outside space. Having the opportunity to have some fun stuff going on, like the games, and of course, the swing dancing lesson by Mr. Higgins is always a highlight. Our CTE in education class visited the Fresno State Education Career Fair on March 3rd. And so our students that are enrolled in that class went with Mrs. Vaquero, their teacher, and kind of saw what it was like. It was interesting. A lot of the schools are hungry for teachers, and so our high school students were being asked for their resumes. So they got a little, experience at what something like that could look like. But it was a really great opportunity to see, in action, the stuff that they're learning, this career pathway, what it really looks like. That's yours. Oh, that's fine. Sorry. Yep. And we have our incredible staff outside that are continuing their dress up days. We've had everything from Star Wars to the Candy Cane crew to out there directing traffic. So, it's helping to mitigate some of our issues with parking and moving families along and escorting their students safely across the parking lot. But they also have a lot of fun while they are out there. Oh, all right.
So we have had monthly safety fire drills. This is us showing off our elementary crew. They did an amazing job at the last fire drill. We just had our theater arts production Oz, and here's a couple pictures. It was well attended, well prepared. It was a lot of fun. Students were in front and behind the scenes had a blast and created props, and so I think Mr. Mallard for his direction into this production was great. Today, we actually have a STEAM fair happening in a few minutes. And so if anybody wants to stay just here, can go preview the STEAM fair. But something coming up is the art exhibit of 2025. And we've been collecting a variety of artwork so that we can display it next month. Here we can see our biology class having a lab, bird beaks and adaptations. And actually, now that I look at the pictures, they do look happy. They are happy, yes. Okay, so in the sports, we started our soccer season. This is the first day with a storm. They still played, and at the end of the season, we would have played 13 games, and we are known as the Rockets at the moment. But if you would like to attend any of our games for any sport, I provided the link there. You can click on that to our website, and it has a section for each sport. So right now we have soccer and rock climbing. Here are a few other pictures of soccer. We've had a great time. It's just been a great opportunity for our school to be part of this league. And then we ended the volleyball season. So here are a few pictures of our volleyball season. Rock climbing is still going on. We have a couple more competitions left on April 26th and May 3rd, and they are rocking it. They're doing great. They continue to be placed at the top, including amongst our league, which is with charter schools, but also with Fresno Unified. And they have had at least one climber from both boys and girls placing in the top 3 at every competition. So they're doing amazing. The elementary world, we also participated in Peach Blossom, so there's our crew. And then we had competition map counts, which is a middle school map competition. We had one student advance to the next level, John Pursuit. So they also did great there. Here's our second grade enrichment and goodness setting flowers. Our Fresno County spell off, so we did our local spelling bee, and this is the county spelling bee. Congratulations to our students that participated. They represent our school so well. A special shout out to Lucas, who tied for 4th place.
Good job.
And we have outings. We've been doing hiking now, so these are a few pictures of our hikes here with staff, students, and parents just enjoying being outdoors. This is the March 12th hike to the Van Buren Trail, and we will continue. These seem to be very popular field trips and outings for our families, so we will continue to plan these out. Our littles are having the best time learning about cultures, and each week a parent takes turns coming into the class and teaching them about their heritage and culture. So it's been really great for them to feel proud of their culture, and then also to see the parents come in and help and volunteer. Here's one of our parents teaching them about Russia. It's been amazing, and I think this week or last week was Mexico, and so every week is a different country, and the parents come and volunteer and bring their lesson plan and their music. And at the end of this unit, they're going to have obviously a big party with food of all cultures, so I won't be missing that class. And so we have fundraising opportunities. We've had great success. We just finished the Chipotle fundraising, so we don't know how much we raised yet, but the Nothing But Cakes was great success. We also had one of our teachers, Ray Pasio, who caters Filipino food. He also helped us with the fundraiser, and right now the current one is a plant sale, so if you are interested, please order your stick. Upcoming events, we have the United States. The water park at the end. I wanted to also just include our counseling connection that our guidance counselor, Greg Hill, does every week for our students. Those are some of the topics coming up. We're gonna, students can learn about what does it mean to be college and career ready, and then the path to intentionality. And then just inviting everybody for our kinder graduation, 8th grade promotion, high school graduation, all on the same day, not at the same time. June 6th at Fresno State at the concert hall. And for more details of upcoming events, there's a link for our newsletter, our monthly newsletters. That's it.
Thank you all very much. It's always a pleasure to see what everyone's up to and everything everyone's achieving. The next scheduled board meeting is going to be May 13th, 2025 at 3:15 p.m. So with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Did we need to sign something?
We will need to sign some resolutions in the Form 700 so that everyone can.
Yep.
I think we can do that after the meeting.
Yes, after yes.
So after we adjourn, if we can stick around, just sign off and everything.
Yep, thank you.
All right, thanks for that reminder.
This is Jason Smith. I'll move to adjourn.
Okay, do I have a second?
This is Mary Mellon, I second.
Okay, and we are adjourned. It is 4:51.
Thank you, everybody.